As we come to an end in our last lecture together, it is perhaps just as important to consider why witch hunts ended as much why they began. 1692 saw the most famous case of witchcraft in America, Salem, in which 144 to 185, the numbers differ, number of people were named as witches. 59 were tried, 19 were executed. The first witches to be named fitted the standard model. They were quarrelsome, female misfits. But over time, the victims, who were mostly a group of adolescent girls, manifesting signs of possession, named more and more candidates, including the upright and the respected. The authorities quickly lost confidence, stopped the trials, and released the remaining prisoners. Now, Salem came at a time when witchcraft prosecutions in Europe were starting to dry up. The timeline for this varies enormously. So, for example, the last execution for witchcraft in the Dutch Republic happened in 1609, well before some of the major witch hunts elsewhere in Europe. In England, the last witch to be executed was Alice Molland, who was hanged in Devon in 1685. Scotland's last witch was Janet Horne in 1722. The end of the witch trials resulted from a changing intellectual, economic, legal and religious climate. Perhaps most importantly, judicial authorities started to insist on stricter evidential requirements for proving witchcraft than ever before. So Sir John Holt, Lord Chief Justice of England from 1689 to 1710, is an example of these sort of sceptical, critical, sympathetic judges. He himself freed more than a dozen accused. And this sort of scepticism meant that more cases ended without convictions. At the Home Circuit Assizes between 1660 and 1701, all 48 witchcraft indictments ended in acquittal. In the same year as Salem, a trial jury in Kent acquitted a group of witches because, and I quote, there was no other material evidence against them but their own confessions. This was a sea change. Now, declining convictions in turn made witchcraft less plausible. By 1700, witch trials were becoming increasingly rare. The last trials occurred in the 1770s and the 1780s in Poland, Spain and Switzerland. Europe's last official witch was Anna Goldie, who was executed in Glasgow in 1782. In 2007, the Swiss Parliament declared her trial a miscarriage of justice. Better late than never. The law followed practice. So trials gradually petered out, and subsequently witchcraft legislation was repealed or reformed. So in France in 1682, in Prussia in 1714, in England in 1735-36, in Sweden 1779 and so on. But a decline in witch trials didn't necessarily mean a decline in belief in witchcraft, in magic and the supernatural. And I leave you with a haunting thought. Worldwide, witch hunts have occurred in far more recent memory. In the Democratic Republic of Congo in 2001, there were officially 843 killings by witch hunters in the Ituri province in a fortnight. Unofficial figures suggest it was more like 2,000 or 4,000 people. Many of those who were brutally murdered were killed for having the devil's vegetable, an onion, in their houses. The religious police in Saudi Arabia created an anti-witchcraft unit in 2009. In 2011, the Saudi courts ordered the beheading of 2 people for having committed the practice of witchcraft and sorcery. In 2012, a Congolese couple in East London were convicted at the Old Bailey for having murdered a 15-year-old boy called Christy Bamu because they thought he was a witch. In 2013, in Papua New Guinea, a mob burned alive a 20-year-old woman whom they called a witch, and there have been similar witch hunts in Nepal, Colombia, Indonesia and Nigeria. In 2014, the New York Times reported that witch hunting is on the rise, with thousands killed every year. Witches, it seems, are still everywhere. We've focused together on a time that is long gone, but perhaps understanding why people are persecuted for witchcraft matters now more than ever.